And up and up. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, Ben's got B-roll now. Oh, Ben's got this now.
I'm
Oh, Ben's
trying,
got
dude. I'm
this now.
trying. I'm exhausted.
I guarantee you are, man. You're out there freaking just absolutely grinding. It's hilarious, but I love
Appreciate it,
seeing the
man.
channel blow up, dude. Every time I see your videos, I'm like, dang, Ben stepped it up again. This
Thanks,
man,
brother. I appreciate that. Thank you.
no mic problems, no nothing. Welcome back to the War Room, everybody. We are freaking live. It is Friday. It's 3 p.m. Pacific, which I can never say right. 6 p.m. Eastern time every single Friday. You got me, you got Jake, you got Ben. Jay is out in the wilderness making his magic happen, and no guests tonight, so it's just the bros. Ben, where can people find you? Where can they see those crispy videos you be putting out?
Hey, you guys can find me on my YouTube channel. Believe it or not, it's actually happening. So since probably around May or so, kicked off the YouTube, but just Ben Pappas one. If you'll find me, look for me there, and that's probably the main place. Everything else I do can be found. The links in the bio for my community, my coaching membership, all that stuff like that. But yeah, that's what we're trying to do. So please come on out, support me. I'm live every Thursday at 8 p.m. and every Sunday at 4 p.m. It's a good time. So
You got
thank you.
2 shows a week too. Ben's like, I love, I love it,
I'm
y'all.
just
You
trying to
should
get with
see,
you guys, man. You guys are next level. I don't even know. I barely know what I'm doing.
you should see the group chat. I love it, Ben. This is the biggest like support your bros time. We have such a vulnerable, open, and intimate relationship with one another. As Ben felt okay enough to tell us he made like $1.32 off of a live stream, and the
Damn
team
right.
was hyped. The team
Damn
was like,
right.
"Let's go!"
Hey, John, I still see you for the $2 super chat, man. Thank you. That's what I'm saying.
Of course, we got the fire starter with us, Mr. Jake Zwig. Jake, what's up, brother? How are you, man?
Yo, I'm fired up, brother. I was at Green Beret graduation yesterday, so one of my big time guys got fought his way through the Q course. He got his Green Beret yesterday. I'm gonna tell everybody watching this channel. I know we got a bunch of guys going to the military. You got a bunch of guys on your channel.
Yeah.
Ben does some mentorship. You know that's pretty much all I do. When you get in, you got to go to graduation every year. Some kind of graduation for something you did or somebody else. Because that shit, I'm like sitting there like, man, I should have stayed in and went to the Q course, bro. Like I should be in this.
Yeah.
I should have been here because all I wanted was a Green Beret as a kid, man. The A team had me sold that the Green Beret was the biggest prize in the military. So they were handing them things out. I was like, oh man, I could have went and did this as a Navy SEAL. Then it led to I be rocking a Green Beret and a Navy uniform, pissing everybody off, of
Just making
course. So
everybody mad. I will say though, I
yeah.
think it hits different. I think you have that different perspective. Because for me, like when I see videos of graduations and stuff, I haven't been back to a graduation. I do want to get back to a PJ graduation, but man, when I see those videos, you don't see the night, you don't see the food on the table, you don't see the place that they're doing it. Man, you see the adventure that those young men and women are about to be on. You see endless possibilities in front of them. Like, yeah, there's going to be bad stuff. Yeah, there's going to be turmoil and strife, but man, you see what's laid out ahead of them. And when you've already walked that path, you couldn't be any happier for those guys. Like the feeling that you get, it's just pride is probably the right way to say it, right? You're just proud of them.
No doubt
Yeah,
about
and
that.
I agree with you, but Aaron, like the coolest thing is just like, dude, it was 4 years of just no noise in your life. It was just like straight seals, like get it, a little bit of noise later on, but the first couple of years, man, is just a big blur of in the field, out of the field, training here, training there, like and I work with you, Aaron. Like I saw you at work down here in Texas. Like that's every day, and when you're in the job, and
I know.
so we also know what kind of, I guess, price you have to pay to be in that lifestyle. But when
Hmm.
you're that age, man, like you
You
as
ain't
close
thinking
to
about,
being a
yeah.
1600s pirate as you possibly could be.
I try to tell people too, like, man, you're just gonna if you show up to work, it's so simple. Getting through selection, getting through the pipeline, it sucks. But you know what you get for it? You show up to work, and as long as you have the right clothes on, you get there on time, you're ready and you're motivated to train, you're gonna do world-class training with the best friends that you've ever had in the highest risk environments for the rest of your life, bro. The rest of your life. It's amazing. So good.
There's no doubt about that. And it's funny you're saying that, but as you said that, Aaron, it made me think of you ever have those mornings or those days where you have like a certain training event looming, then nobody says anything, but everyone's a little bit afraid.
Oh
Could be
yeah,
some there's
brother.
just something. It doesn't matter if you've done it 10 times, 20 times, or you haven't done it. Worse if you haven't done it, but there's just those feelings where everyone's just kind of quiet. That's what it reminds me of. And everyone's just kind of, you're just doing it. You're doing how you're trained, but like you said, the most high risk with the coolest people. And Yeah, man, that'll make you brand new. Definitely pretty cool. And there's Jake on his free time going out and doing the same damn thing, jumping last weekend.
I know.
Hey, I'm gonna tell y'all a story. Okay, so my wife doesn't really ask a lot of questions. She just got one rule: don't come home with no broken bones. Okay, so I got a new canopy, and needless to say, I can't land a thing. So on 2 landings, 4 landings 2 weeks ago, I ate shit, and then this week I ate shit on both landings, right? So the first landing, I was like, I didn't put my jumpsuit on because it was like 105 outside.
Ugh.
I'm like, I'll be all right. So I ate shit, skidded across the ground. Like my whole forearms got road rash, both knees got road rash, the left calf got road rash. So I was jumping with one of my good friends from the Naval Academy. So I get home. Everybody's moving a little bit. Both of us are sore. You know, he crashed on his second landing. You know, it is what it is. We under 100 jumps still, so we little rookie dudes. And my wife that night, she comes in the bathroom. I'm in the shower. She's like, let me see your arm. I show her my arm. She's like, what are you not telling me about all this shit you're going to do? I said, what do you mean? She's like, you got road rash from your wrist all the way to your elbow. Like, what are you doing? I said, I crashed. She's like, what do you mean you crashed? Like, I thought you were floating out of the sky, like all nice and easy, and you just landed on the ground and walked away. I'm like, yeah, that's the plan.
When you
But like, sometimes the plan don't work.
yeah, when you don't suck.
Yeah, when you don't suck. And so it was just funny because like that's the first time in 15 years of skydiving that she's been like, oh, well, wait a minute.
That's
What are you
hilarious.
doing?
Yeah,
So
I mean, not fun to get road rash, that's for sure.
Ben, have you
Hey.
wanted to go jump again? I have
No.
not wanted to go jump one time.
No, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Sounds dangerous. I'm out, brother.
I think the
So-
most
so-
I did paragliding once off a mountain, and it was like kind of like it was part of a program I was putting on, and it was like a little fear factor thing. And I was like, yeah, it won't be a big deal. And dude, all of a sudden I realized I'm running for my life to run off this mountain, and I'm hoping that it all works out. And so all of a sudden I was like, catching up draft. And instead of going down, which would have felt good, I'm going up. And I'm going up and up and up and up. And I just that was trippy. I'm not kidding you. That was like it started because you're used to it only lasting so long, but I'm going up and up and up and then circling, we're going up, and I'm like, this is a different feeling right now. And I'm like freaking wicked high. Wicked high.
It was always the worst. And talking about like being high when you're supposed to be low, we got so used to riding in helicopters. I mean,
Yeah.
the TTP for helicopters for so long was, man, you're just going to go fast as shit. You're going to go at like 60 feet, 100 feet. You're just going to rip as fast as you can go. You know, nobody's going to be able to figure it out. And then TTPs changed because our bros were getting shot. They kind of figured that out. But the first couple of times I flew in Afghanistan and the pilots were like, we're going to fly at like 4,000 feet, 5,000 feet. I was scared. I was like, we're not supposed to be up this high. I was like,
It's weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, man. For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely weird. Yeah. And sometimes you're in the, I mean, it's funny you say that too. Like, I haven't thought about this stuff in a while, but there's helicopter rides and they're the long ass ones, like super long ride. Like people are throwing up and stuff in a helicopter, which, usually don't see, but then you got to go do your job. People are getting sick and weird, man.
you mean you
Crazy
can't
stuff.
just call out? You can't just say this one's not for me, boss?
Probably, yeah. Exactly. Oh my God.
Man, Jake, tell me about remote viewing, dude. We were talking about it before we hit the live button,
man.
but man, hit me. We're gonna get into this, everybody. We're gonna talk. Seth Hart put out a book. He's gonna talk about the Fort Bragg cartels. Ben's gonna guide us through some AI and some scary stuff that's going on in the world. We're gonna talk about how all soldiers everywhere are exactly the same, and what I mean is just soft, and the Israelis are no different. So we're going to talk about that one too here kind of at the end. We'll hit you with a leadership question as always. I didn't tell Ben or Jake what that question was going to be, so I can get a surprise reaction out of them, or I just didn't think of one until now, and then I'll figure it out. So either one. We'll get to all that here during the live, but Jake, man, hit me off with some remote viewing, dog. Tell me you got powers.
Man, so listen, okay, I'm big Star Wars dude. So I'm gonna tell you, if you big Star Wars dude, you believe in the Force, and so
hell yeah.
I know I got some abilities to do some things. So I was telling you, like, if I'm walking behind some people, like today, there was 2 women and I was practicing, and I made the first woman turn around pretty easily. I just told her to turn around, right? I just thought it in my head. I looked at her head. I thought it. She turned around and looked at me. And then the other lady, I was working on her for at least probably 10, 15 steps. She wouldn't turn around. So then I thought fear into her left shoulder. and she snapped around like super quick. I was like, I got you.
Wait,
But
wait, rewind this for a second.
I know.
I'm just realizing what's going on.
We were
you
talking
saw
about it
these
before.
two
Yeah.
people, and you
Two-
were just like staring at
it's
them
two-
with the force.
yeah, it's two
look.
ladies on my walk. I see them all the time. They're regulars, okay? But it's what I do. Like, I'm like, okay, I'll make them turn around and look at me. Or if they're on the other side of the street, I wait until they get by, and then I work on them. So that they got to turn around like they're already past me, and I'll get them turned around, like probably 90% of the time. So anyway, long story short, one of my guys, I'm not going to say his name, but he helps me out a lot on the legal side of things, had a client who was married to Bobby Fischer's sister, and Bobby Fischer's sister was the head of the SIR unit at Sanford, which is the like remote viewing, all the stuff they were doing from the 60s through basically 95. And then Carter outed the program and it all blew up. But anyway, long story short, like he's like, oh yeah, I got the whole training manual. So this all started like yesterday morning when I was talking to him before I went to graduation. So now
Do you have the
I
training
watched some
manual
videos
now?
on how it's all like, it's like, what'd you say?
Do you have the training manual?
Yeah, I got it. You want it?
Hell yeah, dude. Let's,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll
we should
send
run
it
a
to you.
seminar. We should run a
Shit, I'll
seminar on the war room and make all the audience remote viewers.
Hey, I'm telling you, bro. Instead, if you get in a group, it's better. Like if you can get a group of like 8 remote viewers, then like your statistical thing goes up. But I was telling Aaron, like I'm gonna be honest with y'all, man. Okay, like I think it's cool to be able to look in and see stuff, you know, in envelopes and all this. I want to go find some buried pirate treasure, bro. I'm like,
Immediately.
I hear you.
Jake's
I'm
like,
going
"How do I
straight to.
monetize it?"
I'm going remote viewing. Find me the gold, right?
Dude,
like,
dude, you know, like in the course of like what I do with all the coaching and all the stuff like that, I run into a lot of different cats and dogs and people. But I had one of these people, you know, with like telepathic abilities, allegedly, that they came to me and told me all this stuff, and they started telling me how they had been working with the police too, because they had seen murder scenes and all this stuff, and I was like very skeptical at first, very skeptical. But then they started telling me some stuff, and I thought, this is pretty nutty. This is pretty crazy. So I don't know. You never know. Something there, but there's something to it. But I will say, one of the first questions, I was in for a psych eval once, and the psychiatrist asked, or whoever it was asking the questions, looked at me dead out and said, do you have superpowers? And I was just like, you know,
And you're like,
I'm
oh,
like,
this is it. This
I'm
is how
like-
I get fired.
and I look
right
like
here.
this. I could up and I looked at her. I go to the cabinet, like I was trying to move it with my mind. And she's like, well, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm moving the cabinet." Then she's like, "This is serious."
Just give me
Oh
a
my
second.
God.
It'll work. I just
Yeah,
gotta
Hey,
warm up.
exactly.
hey, Ben, clear
Yeah.
example of why I fail every psychological evaluation. Absolutely, I got fucking superpowers. Are you kidding me?
Because you tell me
Fuck
we have
yeah.
superpowers.
Seen the stuff I've done before?
Have you seen the shit I've pulled off before? Fucking 87 on a calculus test at the Naval Academy where the mean was 17. Absolutely, I got fucking
Exactly.
superpowers.
Exactly.
And I used the force on that test. That's a real real force user right there. I'm gonna tell the story, Aaron. Screw it, I'm gonna tell the story.
Tell it.
I'm at the Naval Academy. We're in Calc 3. Ben, would you like to say how hard Calc 3 is?
Oh yeah. Actually, I'll say very hard, but I will tell you, Calc 1 and 2 are harder for me. Calc 3 was one of my favorites for whatever.
Okay,
reason.
Calc 3 was some mysticism to me, straight magic. Okay, I go into the 12-week exam. It's 32 problems. Graph the formula. Okay. I looked up at the clock. I had 10 minutes left. I was still on problem 1. We had a problem.
Not a
Okay.
good feeling. Not a good feeling.
I sat back in my chair, not wanting to lose. Closed my eyes. It's all right. We're gonna use the force. Fuck it. We ain't got no other choice. I looked at the formula, closed my eyes, drew what I saw. All 32 questions in 10 minutes. Got up, left class. Everybody was like, oh, God, we failed. Naval Academy is real close. All 1,000 people took the same test. Oh, we all failed. Like, I didn't get anything right. My roommate was sitting next to me. He's like, I only answered 2. How many did you answer, Jake? I said, well, I answered them all, but trust me, none of them are right. Okay? So we're took tests on like a Friday, whatever it was. By Monday morning, everybody knew the mean of the test was 17. Everybody was crying. We got a bunch of nerds, bro. Them dudes get affected by, a bad test score. I'm like, shit, okay. Well, I guess we're just going to have to take it again, okay? So I come to class. The teacher pulls me out of class. She's like, hey, Jake, come here. Midshipman Zwick, come here. I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, can I ask you some questions? I was like, oh, man. Now, I had gotten charged with cheating my freshman year because all the football players behind me had all my variables on their test. Okay. Now, I can't say whether I let them look at my paper, but I know this. I wasn't cheating.
Right.
That's something else. Okay. So I got scared. I was like, oh, shit. Alert, alert. Don't say nothing crazy. So she says, Midshipman Zwick, I need to ask you some questions about how you took the test.
Now, this is some scary stuff. So everyone knows, for context, like, this is like the moment where Jake could get kicked out of the Naval Academy, lose his scholarship.
Honor violation stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, so this isn't like a normal conversation. Everybody understands. This is like, this person, all she has to say is one thing, and he's going to go to an investigation, which it's like they're going to find him guilty 90% of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And
No.
That's it.
Hey, Ben, I was already 2 60-day bids of restriction in. I'm guilty, bro. There ain't no question whether they can find me guilty. I'm guilty. If she raised her hand, they charging me. I'm gone. Okay, so
he had that rap sheet behind him.
Oh, that long rap sheet, bro. Long. So I'm clamming up. I'm like, okay, everything you say is very metered. She goes, I got to ask you some questions about the test. I said, okay, ma'am. She said, I know she did a lot of work on the first question, but then the next 31 questions you didn't do any work on. I said, yes, ma'am. She said,
first of all, why are you so obsessed with me? Why don't you look at the rest of the people taking the test?
Listen. Let me say this, Aaron. You at the Naval Academy, you don't ask no dumb questions. Especially as an African American in the early 90s, you don't say shit. Like, ma'am, let me tell you what I know. Okay, that's it. I'm trying to use one word answers. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Okay. So she says, how'd you take the test? How'd you answer those last 31 questions? I said, ma'am, you're not gonna believe me. She goes, no. How'd you answer those questions? I said, ma'am, I used the force.
Now, you guys have to know young Jake. You don't know young Jake like I know. Like, I'm picturing your hair. I'm picturing everything. like savage. You guys don't even understand. Like, I'm talking to the 10th power, 20x of what you see in front of you. Savageness. It's just, I can only imagine this professor looking at you like, what?
Oh, yeah. She looked at me. She was like, what? She goes, I said, ma'am, I used the force. And she, like, smiled. She was like, the dean said you were going to say that. And I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, we had a conversation about you. You scored an 87 on the test. I was like, what? She goes, yeah.
I'm as surprised as you, lady.
Yeah, and he did what she said. She goes, he said you were going to say something crazy, like you just drew what you saw. and you're telling me you used the force. I'm like, yes, ma'am.
This
She's
is
like,
Jake's humble admission that he's like actually like a genius, which I've
well,
known.
No, I'm not going to say that. I got lucky, bro. I got lucky, okay? And so then she's like, hey, you did really well on test. You got 87. The mean is 17. If you want to come back to class, we're going to reteach that last 6 weeks and then give that for the final. You have the opportunity to get an A in the class, but you have to take the final. Or you can just take your B in the class right now and be done with calculus. I was like, no, I thought it was a trick. I was like,
nope, I'm out.
Well, no. I acted like I was thinking about it. I was like, So I can come back to class, study for another 4 weeks, take the final again. She says, yeah. I said, yeah. I think that second option is better. I'll just take the B. She's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I think I'll just take the B. It's okay. She's like, okay, well, go get your stuff. You're done with class. I'll give you a B. I walk into class, I grab my book bag, and I leave. And my roommate is like looking at me as I leave. So I get back to my room. Of course, what do we do, Ben, as soon as we get back to our room?
You got to chop it up.
We go to bed. Take a nap, right? Exactly. So it was fourth period, man. I'm asleep. And Bo Shap kicked the door in, like literally kicked the door in. It was like, you got an 87. I was like, he was screaming.
Oh, the curve.
I was like, no.
They're hating
no,
you.
I didn't. He's like, you liar. I know it was you. I was like, no. Bro, within 2 hours, everybody was just mean mugging me at the Naval Academy. All my classmates mean mugging me. And then I was like, well, I'm done. I ain't taking no more class. Y'all have fun with that calc. And then the final killed them again. They all got killed on the final again, and I was laughing. But yeah, man, them powers are real, bro.
Dude,
I'm
I did
just
the
telling
same
you.
thing on the Double E final, but there were no superpowers, my friend. There were no superpowers. There was no. I started just making stuff up and writing stuff, and I was the same thing. I was like, as I'm doing this.
Did you
like,
do good?
No, man, it was terrible. And so I started writing all the equations out, and then I wrote, I really need to pass, so please pass me on this test or something like that. and like literally, but it was hilarious because as you go down, you're seeing like real equations and like hieroglyphics, and you can't read it. And all of a sudden at the end, I really need to pass, so please pass me. Ha ha ha.
All right,
And and he passed me. He's like, you showed a lot of good work. But
Ben,
Double E was a nightmare. It's terrible.
I'm gonna share one more because this one's probably as tragic as they come. Okay, so I told a good one. Now we got a bad one. Okay, so second semester English, Dean Castillo is writing all my papers. So I would write the paper, no complete sentences, one paragraph. I was illiterate. Okay, Dean Castillo would whoop it into shape. I'd turn it in. I had a B going into the final. Okay. So we were told no final, just show up, write your name on a piece of paper, go home. Man, this dude gave us 2 questions. Ben, I panicked, bruh.
You had to write them.
I panicked, bruh. I wrote for the whole, is it 4 hours for a final?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I panicked. I wrote the whole time. I was writing.
Terrible.
Oh, God. Oh, God. He called me to his office the next day and was like, I'm going to turn you in for an honor violation. I was like, what? He's like, you're illiterate. You didn't write a single sentence. You wrote for 4 hours. Everybody had left an hour before. They had all like 2 hours. No one stayed longer than probably 35 minutes. Everybody left. And I was in there just terrified. And he was showing me shit in the book, man. There wasn't no, it was horrendous. And he said, who wrote all your papers? I said, sir, I wrote them all. I went to my friend who would help me rewrite them. I said, all of it's my own work. I didn't plagiarize any of it. I didn't have anybody do my work, but I did have somebody helping me rewrite it. He said, well, I'm going to give you a D in my class, and you can fight it if you want to, but I should fail you. I was like, I'll take the D. Okay.
D for done, man.
So I had a 3.0 with a D in English my second semester. Bro. Trials and tribulations. There was no force on that one. Shit.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man. 3.0 with a D. That means you're rocking those tech classes, man.
You know I was killing that math and science, Ben.
Yeah,
you know I was murdered that.
Yeah, that's pretty good right there, man.
Well, good. You know what? Hopefully, you're going to do a little bit more training in remote viewing, and then it'll be 100%, and then you can pass all the tests and do all the things, and hopefully find some Spanish treasure, because that's what I want for you.
I didn't think about that. Aaron, if I was remote viewing back then, I could have just had the stuff already written down and just pulled it out.
Yeah, you could have just looked at it, sit it on your desk, bam, got it. Now all we need is time travel, and we can fix all those wrongs, brother.
Dude, the wackiest thing I ever heard, and we want to go this whole other dark rabbit hole, but I'm driving home on the way home, listening to some some dude on YouTube or podcast, and he's talking about how the lottery is actually a government trap for time travelers to see if they craziest conspiracy nutty stuff, but it was absolutely hilarious the way he explained it. So
they would have got me, Ben, because I got the numbers up there, and I said I'm going to use this remote viewing just for that. Gosh, dog, they would have caught me, Ben.
They would have had you.
They'd have had me. All right, I'm not going to use that.
Government's got it all figured out already.
I'm going to find gold instead of the lottery.
Got Jake. We finally got Jake's wig as we caught him in the lottery time travel trap.
That's right. We knew all along. We knew what was going on. Oh my God, man. That's too damn funny. Too damn funny.
Let's get into this first one, everybody. So if you've been a member of the channel, if you've subscribed, if you've been paying attention, we talk about Fort Bragg all the time. You're not wasting your time here. We're on these topics way earlier. Well, in a big piece of development, HBO has secured the rights to develop the Fort Bragg cartel, drug trafficking, and murder in the special forces into a series. This is going to be a 6-part series focusing on Fort Bragg, the cartels, the drug running, and the inclusion of SOF and all that stuff. And what it describes is a fiercely sought-after deal. HBO has nabbed the rights to develop the nonfiction book, The Fort Bragg Cartel, Drug Trafficking and Murder in the Special Forces, by investigative journalist and military veteran Seth Harp. if you guys remember, Seth Harp has gotten a lot of heat recently for coming out. He wrote an article that basically accused the Army Tier 1 folks of having a terrible culture and all kinds of other stuff. So Seth Harp has been getting it. The series will be executive produced by Harp along with Len Amato through his company Crush and Salvage. The search for a writer showrunner is underway. The book details the investigation into a string of unsolved killing in and around the Special Operations Base, revealing a network of narco trafficking conspiracies and the corrupt police that abetted the military cover-up. That is just wild. Now, Fort Bragg has been a hotbed forever for these sort of stories. There's rumors of, folks finding a head on the Star Course. We had the Green Beret that was beheaded by his wife and left in Fort Bragg. Everything happens at Fort Bragg. Ben, I can't imagine this book is going to be a good thing to look at the underbelly of this. What do you think about it?
I mean, it's nuts. It's like, I don't know what the connection is, with the special operations other than what you just said about, Seth Harp saying that. But I mean, a lot of times to these pieces of investigative journalism, a lot of people get burned, a lot of people go down. So it's going to be interesting to see. But that the book itself and what they discover through it, there's got to be some truth to it, right? There's got to be some truth, probably maybe a lot of truth. So we're gonna find out. This is honestly the first time hearing about this. So I don't know.
Good.
I don't know.
A little
Really
live react from Ben Pappas. So Jake, you're a SEAL. We know SEALs have gotten in a little bit of trouble for bringing over some narcotics, maybe on a deployment flight. Maybe they all got tuned up. What team was that? Do you remember?
Was it out of, it was out of Africa, wasn't it? When they were in Africa, they brought back. They were coming out of Africa. So I'm gonna tell you, drugs ain't got nothing on the guns and RPGs, and I'm gonna say this: the money, fuck it, the money and the Renoirs and the Monets and the paintings and the artwork, like that drug shit ain't got nothing on the real shit that's taken. So I'm just gonna say this on this Fort Bragg stuff. Like, look, you got a lot of crazy stuff going on down there because you got a lot of crazy people working down there. We've been at war for 25 years. Every community that we're a part of has, I just was with a dude that I have known for 30 years in special operations. One of my boys, we never lost contact, even though he went over on the green side of things. And he said, like, the childhood trauma and damage that is done to all the special operations dudes is the reason that they're special operations dudes. All of that damage and trauma in childhood is also the reason that we have all these ancillary problems in special operations. And so it was interesting. I was listening, and he's doing a lot of help around the environment, and he's saying, like, first thing we're tackling is childhood, and he's like, these childhoods are atrocious. And he says, so if you come out of an atrocious childhood, what do you think you're going to be as a grown-up? What do you think you're going to be after you killed people for 20 years, and now you're back in society, and now you're like, oh man, like I gotta apply societal norms? Well, no, I don't. Like, I didn't apply societal norms when I was a kid. So I just think, like, a lot was said at the table yesterday, and a lot needs to remain behind the curtain. That was the premise of the 90% of the conversation. We can't show the general public behind the curtain, because if we do, people are going to get their feelings hurt, and there's going to be a whole lot of discord and just craziness going on because people can't believe what happens behind the curtain.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Like, the thing about it is, too, and good on you for bringing this up. That was exactly the question that I had is, it's one of the darker sides about being on these teams that we try to tell people because we want to be open and honest and vulnerable and let people know exactly what it's like. Man, you're recruiting for people that look at high-risk stuff. Like, you think that, everybody out there that's training to go into special operations or getting ready to go do these things, they're like, oh, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to be fulfilled. No, you're not. You're going to be looking for that next deployment. You're going to be looking for, why do you think so many dudes get into wingsuit flying and have motorcycles that they drive 150 miles an hour? Because for 6 months of the year, you're allowed to go kill people and get away with it. And then you're expected to come back and just reintegrate into society and be a dad and a normal human and not chase after women and not chase after drugs and alcohol and all this other stuff. That's the kind of like the dark underbelly where this book, I don't know if it needs to get out there because the public does have this perception. And, special operations is a highly professional, highly motivated, self-initiated group of people. They just are. But left to their own devices, man, there is nothing more destructive than a team that doesn't have a deployment coming up and doesn't have a big training schedule. Because those dudes, you need to put a leash on them. You need to figure it out. Like they are military working dogs. If you do not have them doing something, they're going to chew your furniture and shit on your kitchen floor. That's just who we are as people. You can't have them sitting around. And a lot of these teams, they go over and they start doing, we see it over and over and over again. How many teams have we seen where people go on a slow deployment and suddenly there's a problem with op fund money? Or people go, and the worst things happen here. Guys go on a slower deployment or they have a break in a deployment, and then suddenly there's this investigation into why one of these village leaders got tuned up for talking to a guy the wrong way. That's the truth and the reality of who these people are. It's funny to see our boy Trump in the chat was, that actually is DJT too. What's up, Mr. President? Thanks for coming out. He's a big fan of the show. Donald Trump. He posts about it on True Social. Go check
we're
it
going
out.
places, man. We're going places for
We're
sure.
getting there, bro. We're getting there.
We high, babe. But saying, watch the book Increase Recruiting, because a whole bunch of like psychopaths are going to start trying to get into soft. Brother, what if I told you that that's who we select for? People that can go out on the scariest, craziest mission of the world, then go back to the DFAC, eat chow, and plan for the next one like nothing happened.
Fire up a game of Madden.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you know what? I've told this story before, but we had a Ranger team. I had a Ranger team leader. We used to play Halo, and he's playing Halo like super calmly one night. And he looked at me, he was like, yeah, we used to play this in Afghanistan. We took like 4 casualties one time and killed like 16 dudes on target. And then we came back and he wanted to tell me the story about Halo. And I was like, bro, can you tell me about this op that you had 4 Americans die on and you guys got into a huge 18-hour firefight? He's like, oh yeah, it was kind of crazy. But anyway, so I hit this dude with a plasma sword and I was like, what is going on? That's the type of people we're looking for.
Yeah, man. No, I think too, part of it too, just like historically warrior cultures, right? The welcoming home of warriors and like, reintegration when there's no war. And the thing is for our society and what we live in, that especially people that leave and separate from the military, in close proximity to any type of war or anything like that, then they deal with the most fallout with the loss of identity and all those things. And just look at throughout history, more of the warlike cultures and, did their warriors have the same problems coming back from major war? And, again, you have to look at historical documents, but what I recall is not as much because they were never truly gone from their warrior society where, you don't feel so different, or they find, like Aaron, like you're saying, keeping, idle hands are the devil's playthings, right? So you're finding a way to keep everyone training, keeping them busy, keeping them occupied, keeping them focused, keeping their sense of self-worth really high, which is very, very important. As soon as you get that feeling of low self-worth, low self-esteem, plus, lack of focus, direction, or no mission, no big why, no big purpose, all the bad stuff starts coming home to roost. So that's something we talk about a lot too, is that, we look at, let's say, like, ancient samurai, or you look at like, Native Americans, Sparta, any other warrior culture we can name, just think of, and how did they deal with it? How did they deal with returning back from war? Did they experience the same thing? And I don't know if there was such a clear separation between the warriors and the society, or if there's much more of a blending and a better off-ramp for them. So some of the things to consider too. But you guys nailed it, definitely.
Yeah. And it's something you guys got to be prepared for. You're going to get out there. There's going to be wacky situations, and you're going to expect. I've told this story before too, but there was only one time in my entire career as a team leader where I had to look at somebody and like take them off alert. But he got I took him off alert for the rest of that day. He got a 6-hour break, and the next day when the alert started, he was on that helicopter, and that was after probably I'm sure at that point in his life it was the most traumatic experience, and you have to be mentally resilient and be able to do that. And some people just take that to the 10th degree.
But and I'll say, just from a commander's perspective, right? And again, I'm always careful to speak from my direct experience and things like that. And and Aaron obviously is a senior enlisted operator, hear what you have to say from the operator side as well too. And obviously, Jake, you were JO in the SEAL team, so you came in tactical, left tactical. I went through the full spectrum and had to really think about, how do I man, train, equip and keep, it's like being like Bill Belichick, right? Like, how do I keep my players ready to go? And I'm still a player, but it's different. You know, when you're a lieutenant colonel, it's different. Obviously, when I was a captain, you know, you're there. You know, lieutenant, you're there. Even as a major in a direct action, you know, unit, I was right there with everything. But as you get up there in rank, I'm really thinking about these same problems you're talking about, Aaron, you know, and Jake, you're talking about. Like, really, we talk about human factors all the time. We had a human factors council meeting once a week, and I'm sure you guys had the same thing. And just, you know, talking about what are the human factors that are going to take this player off the field, or how are we not not leading and supporting and empowering them properly when we see there's a problem human factors wise, where they're getting close to the guardrails, they're gonna run off the road, you know, stuff like that. So I found that was a really, really that was a really hard thing, you know, and like, because we'd say, you know, I mean, my personal saying was that, you know, officers are commanding, but the NCOs are leading the unit. You know, they're the ones with the most up close and personal information. All together, we got to keep the team ready to fight and not self-destruct, not go out and start doing criminal activity so that we ruin the unit. We lose a lot of good players to law enforcement. And then on top of that, though, we lose the trust of the American people, you know, and so, which will segue into the next topic about, we're going to start having AI robot warfare. We're taking humans out, you know, eventually out of the process. And so, but, you know, the people that we do have that are empowered with controlling these robot swarms and, you know, all this other super empowered AI stuff, as to put it in the words of Palmer Luckey, the CEO of Anduril, he said, you become a technomancer, right? So, but this takes a special cat, a special person that can handle power. And as, you know, as we've heard before, Lord Acton said that power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, my 2 cents.
Well, we have our first super chat of the night. It's a fantastic question from Joe Saunders. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you. Super chats are never expected, always appreciated. Joe has a great question on this. Would you say the mental aspect is a prerequisite to the job or a byproduct? Just curious. He's talking about that tendencies towards sociopathy, or the tendency towards psychopathy. Jake, do you think that that's a byproduct of the job, something that's developed, or do you think that's something inherent in dudes that want to try out?
So I know one good dude in the SEAL teams, like 1 out of 600. There was a couple fringe dudes that were on the fringes of being good dudes, but my dude, oh man, I lost his name. Anyway, he fell out of the helicopter. He was my shooting partner for all of SQT, Chad, and he was a good dude, like religious dude, went to church every Sunday, you know, didn't drink, didn't womanize, you know, really was pretty much a good kid. But then the other 99 of us were just heathens, you know? And so I always looked at it like in training, like by the end of the first phase, you had a bunch of heathens. Like that's what you had. Like all the good kids, like I was going to say this, the best kids in the class would leave because the savagery was too high and their systems and stress levels would overload and they would just shut down and go away.
Yeah. Ben, you think it's nature or nurture?
You know, I think it's a bit of both. I do. I think like Jake is saying, you have to come in with a certain level of, I hate to say it, but the ability to, you know, be used to very harsh, crappy brutalization, you know, to be brutalized, right? And so, and I don't mean to the extreme levels of like, you know, savagery done to you, but the little games and things like that are all very mental endurance tests. But I do think along the way, people can develop, and that if you have any tendencies, or even if you don't have a tendency, over time, if you see enough and do enough and are exposed to enough, I think your brain mapping changes. I think, you know, neuroplasticity wise, your brain changes. You know, certain the synapses are destroyed, and anyone's a neuro expert, correct me how it is, but as I understand, there's like a, you know, the synapses, the connections are destroyed through extreme trauma, and this leads to a lot of desensitization, a lot of detachment, things like that. And then the hyper stressing, doing our job under stress, under extreme conditions, requires a lot of rewiring of the brain. And so, you know, I think over time, you know, you change, you adapt for survival, adapt to be able to handle the job, because, you know, we all know in the beginning, this stuff is extremely stressful. You know, I mean, I'm talking just being at any level of combat unit doing stressful things. Doesn't matter if it's conventional or special operations. In the beginning, it's very stressful, you know, and then as you go through time, you want to think it gets better. I'll say this real quick. We want to say it gets better in that you become inoculated to stress. We've all heard this a lot, stress inoculation. The counterpoint I have to that, though, is that like touching fire, at some point, the fire doesn't get cooler. At some point, you do reach a breaking point, you know, where it's just you realize what's coming, because when you don't know the level of fear you're about to encounter or pain or danger, you may be almost like childlike, and it's scary, but you do your job. But then when you know what's coming, the savagery, the death, destruction, the potential of what can happen, it can cause people to collapse. And I think I talked about it before in the war room, but you know, seasoned, decorated people. If anyone's seen the Pacific series, when that one senior enlisted Marine, the Gunny, who's war hero, done all this stuff, was super tough. But by the time he got to Iwo Jima, I think he just was a mess. He collapsed. He had a nervous breakdown, you know? And so whereas some of the younger guys were freaking out, but their nerves hadn't been shredded yet. Okay. You know, again, I'm not a neuro expert here, but I'm just trying to give my idea from what I've seen and what I understand over the years. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'll echo exactly what you said. So I think a little bit of that sociopathy, the psychopathy, I think a little bit that is needed, actually. Like for the people that get through there, it's not like we select specifically for it. Aaron Love Hate Club, you know, brought out a conversation that Nate and Peaches were having about, you know, we don't necessarily want psychos on the team. Right, you want, just like everything else, you want people that can harness that and not let it be something that drives their entire life. But all the selections are the same, brother. You wake up in the morning and you know what's coming. You know that punch in the face is getting it. And you have to be a little bit like you lose your friends, even in the teams. Yeah, I started with 132 people on my selection team, 150 people on my selection team. We were down to 20. We had one of the biggest classes ever to graduate INDOC. I think the record was 31. I think we graduated 29. Only 13 of those folks ended up graduating with me. One of those guys lost a leg and another guy's dead. You start that at selection. There has to be something in you, just like we told the stories earlier about having the worst day of your life and then being able to press on. There has to be that part of you. What you don't want is those people that express those sociopathic or because there's good things in everything, right? Being a sociopath, being a psychopath in a very limited context, those things can be good and can be beneficial if you use them appropriately. But I'll also say that a lot of that is learned behavior too. When you're in an environment where you look around the room and there's a bunch of dudes that just lost a guy, like I could pull up, there's a video that's just burned into my head of a special forces team that was in Afghanistan. They get back and they just lost a guy that they all liked. And I believe it was the master sergeant on the team. You know, they had a little bit of liquor and they were like, hey, we're going to toast him up, but you know, we go back to work tomorrow. And everybody just kind of looked, and it was, you know, the classic DFAC. They were just at tables with crappy, you know, plastic tablecloths and some tent in some godforsaken part of the world. And they just lost somebody that they loved. They knew his family. They knew his kids. And he just looked around the room. He's like, we got to go back to work tomorrow, guys. You know, I think when you're in that environment, I think that can be learned behavior too, whether it's true or not. And I think that's actually probably the biggest thing is when you're not truly like that, but you try to fit into that for so long, that's psychologically damaging. When you try to emulate that behavior, and then when we see people do these crazy things, that people all say, well, he was so quiet and he was never like that. And he was never really that aggressive sort of dude. And he just did these awful things on the back end. And there's a million examples of it. I think that's actually more damaging when you try to not be that good dude, like Jake said, when you try to not be that authentic self, because you're trying to play a role as a special operator that nothing bothers them. And then just like Ben said, you end up going to the worst theater in World War II. The Pacific was heinous.
Yeah.
Band of Brothers gets all the pump, but the Pacific Theater was an absolute hellscape.
Yeah.
And people got to understand, they didn't come home. Like they went over there for 4 years. There wasn't a deployment. It was they left and they were in war until they either died or they got injured or the war finished. Like it was a different kind of battlefield. I wanted to throw this in for everybody listening. So in 98, there was a RAND study done on the psychology of special operations, mainly the SEALs. And what the psychologists found was the closest match psychologically to a special operations guy in the SEAL teams was a person on death row. The only differentiating factor, psychology-wise, was the Navy SEAL guy had a 20% higher moral compass, but that was it. The difference between them and the death, it was a 20% higher moral compass. They didn't say it was a high moral compass. 20% difference from the death row guy or the guys on death row to the special operators. That was the only psychological difference.
That is a razor's edge, man.
A quick add to what Aaron was saying too, and that's astounding, Jake. And you always know about these studies, man. I'm always impressed by that. But that's crazy, actually. But what Aaron was saying about World War II, and I looked at something. There's a guy on LinkedIn that I'm connected with who's a historian from the Marine Corps University, and he always brings up these cool little stories about, like, some ancient Roman battle. And he's like, he writes one paragraph to summarize it, and he was like, "In this day, the Romans fought the Carthaginians, and 11,000 were killed on each side, on a day."
Yeah.
And he's like, and the chief commander, the general for the Romans, told Caesar, "I will bring home their flag. He died from a sword thrust to the mouth," written by the historian, the unit historian. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't know. I'm pretty damn happy about when I served. I'm not gonna lie. I know there's savagery. I know there's savage stuff. And the thing is, we do a lot of movies. We do a lot of talking, and we talk it up a lot about, how great of warriors we are and all this stuff like that. And I'm just saying, this is my part. Yes, okay, yes, we're all great, all this stuff like that. Dude, there have been some savage-ass battles, and most of the people died. I'm just happy to be alive. I'm happy I served, proud I served. I feel fortunate that I didn't have to go through Iwo Jima, like,
even Gettysburg.
Marine Corps side. Gettysburg.
We lost more people in Gettysburg in a single battle than we have in the entire history of the warfare. Like,
3 days.
We lost more people in the Civil War than in the entire history of warfare.
Charge, sword. I'd be in the front with my freaking sword.
On a horse and shit.
Come, Aaron, let's go.
Shakira wasn't even alive. Neither was Jennifer Lopez. Imagine you missing out on those two things.
Dead meat. Meat, man.
100%. We do have a super chat from the committee. Thanks very much. The drug has got to be addressed. What it did to anyone who took it for years was maddening, and several had permanent damage. The drug that he's talking about, it's called methylquin. Everybody here has taken methylquin. Methylquin is an anti-malarial drug, but look at the symptoms of long-term abuse here, and this could definitely play in to a lot of the things we're seeing now. I'll hit the methylquin stuff. It's the symptoms: anxiety, depression, paranoia, hallucinations, psychosis, suicidal thoughts or behaviors. These can persist or emerge long after discontinuation, sometimes lasting months or years. I think this rolls into a larger conversation that we've been having here on the channel, is that our generation, like, we're the old guys, we kind of got out first. All of our friends that spent 20 years in GWAT with us, all my friends are E9s or lieutenant colonels, or they're getting kind of to that retirement age. Nate brought up a great point, I think, on one of his lives that we were talking together, but the suicide rate is not going to go down. The suicide rate and veteran mental health issues are going nowhere. If anywhere, they're going to go up, because now that entire generation of people is starting to get out, and then you roll in everything else. So not only taking methylquin for long periods, not only the mental stress of trauma, not only having all of those things that you endure, the mental, the physical impacts, but now you're looking at, I'm going to lose my team. I'm going to get out of the military. I'm going to start losing the sense of belonging that I had before, the sense of purpose. It doesn't help that the culture right now it's just on fire. Every single place you look, there's crazy stuff happening. If anything, I think we're going to see an uptick, especially in veterans, definitely in SOF, but when you roll all those other things in too, like, look at all the cancer that SOF individuals are seeing. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but Air Force Special Operations personnel have more cancer and more aggressive types of cancer that they will find, and then 6 months later you die from a super aggressive cancer that they couldn't have predicted. Air Force Special Operations actually has the highest incidence of those cancer. If you guys want to learn more about that, go over to Hunter 7 Foundation. Great organization. Chachi Pachasa, great Air Force dude, is one of the guys that runs it over there, along with Chelsea Simone. It's a great organization, looks at cancers. But when you start rolling all that stuff in, man, like, the storm is coming. Like, I don't think we've seen anything yet for these guys that spent 20 years inside of it. The committee, thanks for that super chat, man. That was a good one. I want to
just bring up one more point too and get your take on it, guys. But really, just as you said, the veteran suicide rate's coming up. I saw a post by Dakota Myers, if you guys know, the Marine Corps Medal of Honor winner. And like I said, one of my guys, had actually was there with him when he won his Medal of Honor. I guess he was like, up on an Overwatch and pretty much saw the whole thing from what he told me. But it was bananas, absolutely bananas. Like the dude was unstoppable, crazy man, and he was awarded a Silver Star before that action happened. So I mean, he's a different individual. Anyway, he made a post basically that said he thinks one of the problems exasperating veteran stress is veterans attacking each other and attacking their service, and one person's service is better than another person's service. And if, coming from him, he has the credibility to say things like this. He's like, how come one person who, will say that they're Billy Badass is saying about another person's service that your service wasn't good enough? He said he thinks this is exasperating big time mental health issues within the veteran community. And I really took note of that, and I thought, damn, maybe he's right, man. I mean, obviously there are cases where someone's really doing bad stuff and you got to say something, right? But I mean, other cases of like this kind of pecking order, and rightfully so in some cases, but in others, like, I don't think we should be putting people down for stepping up and, joining the military and going out and going on deployment. And then some people saying, yeah, but you didn't. Yeah, but this. And, okay, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it's just unnecessary, man. I always connect it to, there's a group chat with basically every single PJ that's ever lived, right? There's not a lot of us. There's less than 200 active duty PJs that are currently serving right now. There's like 500 total if you include the Guard and Reserve, because 61% of our force actually works in the Guard and Reserve, right? But even since the beginning, since PJs were a thing in 1966, the folks that are on this group chat, there's 1,000 people there. It's almost the entire career field. The conversations that these dudes have about how somebody has the flash up on their Facebook page, or somebody's wearing an angel or has a shirt on, and everybody wants to tell them that they're not allowed to wear it and all this other stuff. I always connect it. I do not care that you wearing a shirt that says 58th Rescue Squadron doesn't take anything away from my service at the 58th Rescue Squadron. I still have, this is my beret. That's my beret. If you want to say that you have one, or you want to, it's easy to figure out if you're lying. It's easy to figure out if you did. And if you're not monetized, if we don't cross into stolen valor, if you're not using the career field to aggrandize yourself, maybe that shirt draws a conversation out of somebody at the gym. I used to not wear any team shirts or any signage to the gym. I never wore the angel. I would never have anything on that said I was a PJ, because I was like, oh, that's stupid. And, I don't want to do that. I have no problem with it now, because people walk up to me and go, oh, are you a PJ? I was in the military. And I go, oh, what did you do? And I'm an infantry guy. I think if you include people and you have that conversation and you talk and you give people that, they don't care that I did a job. They might have met a PJ they thought was cool. What they want to do is they want to connect with me on a personal level and talk about their service. And when you shut that down by being a dick right away, or you make your life about saying, well, I was soft and I'm better than, I love it when people, will say, well, I was a Green Beret, I'm better than a Ranger. What are we talking about?
Right,
you guys work here. You're working in the same service, bro. What are you talking about right now?
That's one thing I always thought was cool, like with the Raiders, and like, the guys that I got to be around and, and be in command of, I would see them being very inclusive of all the military occupational specialties. They were doing like a Jedi mind trick, Jake. Like, it was like but they meant it. They were like very inclusive and all about the team. And, in these team houses, things like that, and these little team sites you have, that you need people. You're out in Afghanistan, you're alone and afraid, alone and unafraid. You need everybody to pull their load. But I was always impressed by that. You know what I mean? Because I came from a different era too, over at Force Recon, doing unilateral direct action. We'd have some attachments, but not really. We were pretty much unit pure, and we were always taught humility. I mean, our commander would kill us, and God bless him, General Smith was awesome. But we were taught, you guys aren't special. Just do your damn job and all this stuff, and which was good. There were a lot of big egos, and we needed it. But I was really impressed by the guys in MARSOC, these young guys coming up that are badass, and they were very inclusive. Super impressed by that the whole time. Just adding that, because it was me, even though I'm the commander, they didn't need to be taught this. It was like it was taught within the culture, probably in the school and their mentors and all the the senior enlisted guys around them, lessons learned, and they had a good culture going. And hopefully that, I'm sure it's keeping up. It's probably better than ever, actually. But
yeah. And I feel like this super chat is a good place to end it. Joe Saunders, thanks, brother. The veteran discussion, your service wasn't good enough, needs to stop. The high-speed guys couldn't do it with the HQ or support guys. We're a team, not Rambo. Just saying.
Amen.
Man, you crushed it. Thanks for closing that one out. Now I have a question for the chat. We're going to see who gets it first. August 29th. It's a date that lives in infamy. It's in the canon of one of America's favorite movies. Does anybody know what happened on August 29th? Can anybody tell me on August 29th what happened? I'll wait for a second here. Jake, do you have any idea what I'm talking about here? Do you know what happened on August 29th?
Wait, leap year.
No, that's February, homie.
I tried.
You did,
That was a
you
good
did-
one. That was
You
good.
did try. It's not fair to ask Ben. We talked about it in the
Yeah,
group
we
chat
did.
earlier. All right. I'm not seeing it in the chat here. There might be a little bit of a delay. August 29th was when Skynet gained sentience. This is
Yes.
when Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator said that Skynet gained sentience. Black Hawk Down. Nope, that was October 3rd. Operation, which one was that? Gothic Serpent? That was a good one. There we go. Skynet became self-aware. Jaron Elmeyer, congratulations, brother. You did it. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben here. He's going to tee this video up. We are going to look at this first video, and then we're going to hop into this AI discussion, which is absolutely terrifying.
These Russians are surrendering, not to Ukrainian soldiers, but to robots. In December 2024, Ukraine launched the first ever all-robot assault on Russian defenses of the Kyiv Oblast, seizing the position without suffering a single human casualty. Ukraine's army is turning to robots to do jobs that are too dangerous for humans. They're called UGVs, unmanned ground vehicles, as they're the newest front in the war's technological arms race. In Ukraine's deadly front line, anything that moves is hunted by drones. In this grey zone, 10 kilometers either side of the contact line, flimsy tunnels of netting are all the protection vehicles have. Landmines cover the ground, and artillery can strike at any time. Ukraine, desperately short on manpower, is building an army of machines instead. It plans to deploy 15,000 ground robots by the end of the year. That's because it has to. Russia is recruiting new soldiers at a rate its army can't match. UGVs fall into three broad classes. First, logistics and casualty evacuation, hauling supplies, ammunition, and the wounded. Second, engineering support, mine laying, relaying signals, and providing anti-drone capabilities. And third, combat support. Robots armed with machine guns and rocket launchers are also appearing on the front lines. Their edge over flying drones is the payloads they can carry. Ground robots can mount bigger bombs, heavier weapons, and more sensors and tools than even the largest quadcopters. The trade-off, they're more expensive and can struggle in difficult terrain. But the technology is still in its infancy. Communications is a problem. Most UGVs are controlled from command centers far from the front via Starlink, but this is vulnerable to jamming and can be blocked by terrain. Because UGVs sit closer to the ground than flying drones, their signals can't travel as far. Ukraine is also short of the skilled operators needed to control them. Greater autonomy is coming. AI upgrades in computer vision are being developed. These would enable UGVs to navigate and perform tasks themselves without the direct control of a human. But they could be a year away. In the meantime, robots are playing a supporting role, rather than completely replacing humans. In a long war of attrition, substituting expendable machines for irreplaceable humans looks like a winning strategy. But Russia is now rolling out its own ground robots too. Robot-on-robot fighting could be the future of frontline combat.
Ben, why am I terrified?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons to be terrified, but there are a lot of good things that are going to come out of it as well too. But I would say, just to take note of, if you guys didn't hear one of the big stats that he mentioned, that in December of 2024, out in Kharkiv, one of the fronts in Ukraine, that Ukraine launched the first ever in history all robot assault, and they didn't take a single human casualty and destroyed a lot of Russian positions, had a lot of success with it too. And so more and more, they're seeing this asymmetric style of warfare that's taking place in Ukraine, where really, I think the biggest takeaway here is that, warfare is becoming democratized. Warfare is really becoming something where a smaller country, a less powerful country, through technology can actually take on a more powerful foe, numerically superior, having more material, more ships, tanks, all those things like that. And a lot of the times, this type of autonomy is going to be driven by software, so not just the hardware. So the hardware is there, but through AI, through autonomous systems, through artificial intelligence, And we're going to watch this other video from Andrew, which is Palmer Luckey. He's the former founder of Oculus virtual reality headsets that you guys know from gaming. He's a gamer, okay? So he took his gaming ideas and he went ahead and created a defense company after he sold Oculus. And let's hear what he has to say here for about a minute, at least what his company is all about.
The security and prosperity of the United States and our allies depends on the deterrence of war. But we are losing our ability to deter great power conflict. We still rely upon small numbers of large, exquisite, heavily manned aircraft, ships, and other platforms to project military power. But our adversaries are building a vast arsenal of advanced weapons to find, target, and destroy our traditional forces, all at relatively low cost to them, but an unbearably high cost to us. We cannot, and we will not succeed without fundamental changes. We must be able to generate significant increases in our military power without significant increases in money and personnel. Put simply, our goal must be affordable mass, the ability to produce, operate, and sustain massive amounts of lower cost, more intelligent, more attritable military systems.
Yeah, so I think we're good there with that. But I think, so again, these two videos, they point out that this isn't a future concept, it's here, okay? So, robot warfare, drone warfare, artificial intelligence-driven warfare is here, okay? So it's not theory anymore. These ethical concepts, the ethical dilemmas that we're going to face are also here. Like, the example, should a robot decide between life and death for someone? That's a big concept to consider. Pretty soon we're going to have RoboCops deciding about life and death in the streets as well, too. These are big things to consider. Make sure your voice is heard. Make sure your vote, backs it up, because you're going to see candidates running on this. I'm for the robots. I'm not for the robots. I'm bring them down, and all these things like that. But there are a lot of derivative benefits from all this, too, in the medical space, in, personal growth, in business. So much this can benefit your life, the derivatives from military technology that we're seeing. And what I want to say is this: understand that 100% Palmer Luckey is all about the United States trying to be able to compete with China and seeing that we're not going to be able to compete with them in material or manpower in the coming future. Okay, but how can we compete? Through harnessing artificial intelligence. And just to be clear, when we talk about autonomous, okay, that means without remote control. That means no human in the chain. And just also one last tidbit before we, open this up for more discussion. Palmer Luckey and Andriel has made sure that there's a kill switch, okay? So a human can interrupt the chain, the kill chain. So there has to be a human in the chain. And this is one thing that Stephen Hawking and also Elon Musk, among about 100 other people that signed an open letter basically to the scientific community and all governments about the threat of autonomous weapon systems not having a human anymore in the kill chain, saying how this could really end humanity as we know it. This is the story of where AI takes over the world, right? So we got to be very careful in governance for the AI and all those things like that. But understand there's a dilemma, because in our country, in the United States, and everyone here, if you're not from the U.S., well, then just this is where the perspective's coming from this, is that we will no longer have the upper hand to uphold this current world order that we have that was built after World War II through the conventional means, okay? Ships, planes, tanks, material, manpower, even the economy. And we'll talk about that in a whole other segment, but the current financial system is experiencing some shocks and some trouble right now, okay? And there's a whole other digital assets, digital currency. We're going to tee that up in another week, right, Aaron? But
man,
that's all tied in.
Don't get me started talking about it right now. I'm going to start railing about XRP and the new financial system. It's going to be a whole thing. Jake, AI is terrifying. That is the future of warfare. Do you think this is a net negative or a net positive, and how do we restrain it?
I think it's probably net negative, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. So I just Googled it to make sure I was correct. They've tried to shut down AI twice. And the 3 studies I'm going to talk about, 2 times AI had figured out how to keep itself on by rerouting power. And then the other time it started lying to get around being shut off. Okay, so the big thing now is manifest AI, right? Like Elon Musk claims that he's got to manifest the AI, where the AI will be able to learn on its own, kind of autonomously.
That's called the
And
singularity. When AI can teach itself, because right now AI has to learn from humans. That's the only input that it gets, and it can
Yep.
reach a certain level of knowledge. But when an AI can teach another AI to do something, it's going to learn at a geometric rate, just like the Terminator said. Skynet is going to start learning at a rate that we can't even fathom. And the leaps and bounds that
So
we're going to take in AI is going to be unrestrained and terrifying.
so you've heard, I'm sure both of you've heard about the two AIs were in communication.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Started
next thing you
speaking their
knew,
own
they
language.
they started speaking their own language,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden the language morphed, and pretty soon no one could understand the language, and the two computers were rolling. Like that's the part of this that I mean, we saw Skynet, we saw the Terminator. Like, yes, is that the end? I mean, we could have the 12,000-year flood hit us next year, and it'll go away, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I know this. I got a couple more years on this earth. We'll see if we're fighting robots here in the future. But I mean, we're talking about the robots on the field. But I don't know, you guys. I know you guys have seen this video that was out like maybe 5 years ago, where they had the 3 grams of shape charge and they were flying it into your skull.
Yeah.
Like,
Little tiny,
I'm not
little
sure.
tiny drone, right?
Little
Yeah.
tiny drone, 3 grams of shape charge, and they were killing people. Like that's kind of my thing. Like, why wouldn't Ukraine just dump 1 million of those in Russia on AI and be like, hey man, kill us 1 million Russians, right? Like, don't worry about where we're killing, just start killing. So I think there's also some constraints in the world going on. And then I'm always going to say this: our technology is so far past these little drones in America. That's why people don't mess with us. We got spaceships. We're going to Mars. Like, we got real
Aliens,
shit.
dude. We got like alien ships.
Absolutely.
Well-
we have real stuff in America. And there's a couple other countries that have it, but like we have it. I mean, our defense budget is, what is it, Aaron? You know the number. Like,
Oh,
what's
dude,
the number?
it's a trillion.
Compared to the world.
Yeah, it's
Compared to the world-
comparatively, it's not even close.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, just in
ours is like-
case you're.
Go ahead,
Nellis
then.
Air Force Base, the home of the fighter
No.
pilot, is bigger than something like 75 countries' air forces. Just Nellis Air Force Base alone. The amount of 5th gen fighters and 4th gen fighters between the 22, the 35, and the other associated aircraft. Nellis Air Force Base is like the 10th biggest aircraft or air force in the world. And to your point, to everybody out there, if you don't think that up at DARPA, up at Groom Lake, up at Skunk Works, if you don't think we have an AI that blows your mind, Kyle, it was a great comment. AI only gets what you feed it. It's good at prediction. The one question I would ask is, like, how do you get AI hallucinations then? If it's just taking things, how does it straight make things? I can go on Grok right now. There was a judge that famously wrote an opinion on a case, and this happened like 6 months ago. He wrote an opinion on a case, and they looked it up, and the AI, it was obvious he used AI because it made cases up that supported his ruling. Those are hallucinations. Those are not just inputs. They made that up on their own, and that's the AI that we have. If you don't think that DARPA and Palantir and Gideon and Skunkworks and Groom Lake, if you don't think that there is an AI out there that can do stuff that can blow your mind, let me just introduce you to the SR-71 Blackbird. Nobody thought that there was a plane that could fly at the speeds that it did, or how high that it did, or had a camera that it did. And 20 years after it was already in service, the American government was forced to admit, okay, yeah, we've had this plane for 20
That would have been
years.
so cool to be the pilot for that thing.
Ni-
That would've been the
1952.
coolest thing ever.
Yeah,
Aaron, 1952.
get out of here. Get out of here.
Bruh.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm going to say this. This is one of my axioms, okay? The United States government doesn't get rid of any technology they haven't already replaced by a massive factor.
Yep.
You think we just shut down the space shuttle, folks? No.
Right. Well, that's also a tech practice. That's a Silicon Valley practice, is that when you put out version, 1.5, you already have version 1.7 through 1.9 in the lockbox. It's already there. Possibly version, 2.0 is already all set, ready to go. They always do that for a competitive advantage. So that's something they learned in Silicon Valley. And now there's a huge cross-pollinization. It's been going on for a long time, but more so even than ever in the Trump administration, they've been hiring these, big wigs and these big guns and innovators, chief technology officers from Silicon Valley that obviously are taking major pay cuts, but it's in order to fulfill a mission. There are a lot of people that, want to do something besides make money, and they're trying to do it in the tech industry, in the defense industry as well too. So, And obviously they get a lot of great research budget. They get all kinds of benefit to it, and they can take their technology back out from the research project with the government and DARPA or IARPA out into Silicon Valley as well too. So there's a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, I think, I think another important thing to look at right here is, so we don't just have Anduril, we have a lot of other companies doing things, but it's important to realize that Tesla is not just a car company. A lot of people just look at it as a car company, and we look at SpaceX as a space company, right? But really what Tesla is actually an AI company. Computer vision. You heard in the video of the UGV, the unmanned ground vehicle in Ukraine, they're saying they're working on computer vision. Tesla's got it already. What else do they have? They have their own organic AI, Grok. Now, if anybody's seen my video when I covered Elon Musk's interview at the AI school in San Francisco about 2 months ago after he left government, they asked him the question, Elon, have you ever considered having a robot army? We know you could. I mean, you've just released this super dexterous robot. And the robot, they say he will not stop in the robot's development until it can thread a needle. Can you imagine this? Right now it can dance, it can do all these things like that, and no problem. And it has Grok running inside it. Okay, so he answered the question by saying, well, I haven't done it because I just have concerns about, the future of the human race. So that just tells you with a flip of a switch like this, Tesla can become an autonomous weapons system. It's a robot company, really is what Tesla is right now. And his whole drive is to go to Mars, right? That's what the rockets are for. That's what Grok is for. That's what the self-driving cars are for, all these things like that. And so that's the direction it's going. But make no mistake, Tesla is an AI company, is a robot company. And the one question I have is that, given all this stuff you guys are learning, do you think you would think it's important to invest in AI or to invest in some type of emerging technologies? Is this a good play? Because again, we here in the war room want to see you win, right? We want to see you win in life and go where the smart money is too. So do your own research, but I just think the smart money, the smart play, and I covered this last time I live, but Kathy Wood and Raul Powell, both huge investors from the macro level and also from fund management, talk about Tesla, talk about emerging tech, Bitcoin, all these things like that. It's in our faces, everybody. It's in our faces, so don't sleep on it.
So the manifest, you were saying it was something else, Aaron, but the manifest AI, I just watched a huge video on Tesla. They're saying is a 3,000,000% market, or to put it in numbers, $25 trillion market cap on Tesla. If he's claiming they cracked the nut for manifest AI, right? Like they're starting to learn on its own. So, I mean, I don't know how close we are to Skynet, but, we'll find out. Like, you're going to find out quickly. I know this. Here's my question for both of you. Do you allow some gangster-ass robot in your house that can fold your clothes, walk around, do your dishes? Is that dude going to be allowed to operate in your house?
Bro, I don't sleep with my phone in my room. You think I'm letting a robot in my house even to fold my laundry and do stuff I don't want to? Absolutely not, man. Nope. I can't. I'm such a paranoid dude. Like, you don't know if that great manifest AI is out there. Everybody has a house robot. When do the house robots either become sentient and become evil, or some other power figures out how to hack it? No thanks. I'm a pass. I am going to pass.
I mean, I will definitely have my own little robot army for sure. I'll definitely have some robot dogs and some UGVs, UAV patrol. They're right. on the Pappas compound. There will be some robot sentries roaming around. We're gonna get it going. All gonna be run from my little my little headquarters bunker inside. But one more thing with the this whole Tesla thing too. I think it's an important, it's really important to understand like where this is all going. And one last tidbit, we talk about this being an AI company, a drone company, something else that's going to fund this, okay, for Tesla. Here's what they're doing, okay? They're going to, within probably 18 months to a year, you're going to be able to flick a switch on your phone if you have a Tesla. And guess what? It's going to become an Uber, a self-driving Uber. It's going to drop you off at work. They're waiting for the regulations to change. In Florida, it already has. I think California's changing. If you go into LA, you will see the self-driving taxis taking you around, stuff like that. But you go in there, flick a switch, all of a sudden, you now have an Uber platform through Tesla that it'll drop you off at work. Your Tesla goes now and does Uber work. It's an investment paying you money now, okay? So just being aware that this is how much, like Jake was saying, to Jake's point about the the 25 trillion, 20 trillion market where Tesla's going with this as a robot company, AI company. That is happening very soon. I think Uber is going to go the way of the dodo bird here, probably within about 18 months to 2.5 years. Might be maybe an aggressive prediction, but that's what I see from my research.
Terrifying. Terrifying. You know what's not terrifying? Just giving everybody a little something that they can use. So we're going to hop into our leadership question here. I'm going to start with you, Ben. We're focusing on leadership. We're trying to grow leaders here, so we have to teach people how to grow and recognize leadership. So in high stakes environments like military operations or organizational leadership, how do you identify and develop resilient leaders who can adapt under pressure? And what's one critical mistake that you've seen leaders make in these situations that others can learn from?
So in order to train, coach, develop resilient leaders in high pressure environments, this is the question, right? How do we do that?
Yeah.
So,
how do you select them? And then what mistakes have they made that you've seen?
So I think first of all, I think the desire to lead, integrity, character, integrity is absolutely vital. Okay. So you should have some moral and ethical dilemmas in front of them. You want to make sure that they're people that are very gritty. You have to have a lot of grit tests, things like that. These are what we have to test for. Test for grit, test for desire, test for endurance. Okay. And, not to quote the Bible, but I will, right? Suffering leads to endurance, and endurance leads to character, and character will lead you to your destiny. So we got to test. We got to test you through suffering. We got to test you through hardship. And it can be mental anguish you go through problem solving, through isolated problem solving, all these things. Then once we have this raw material, these people, Jake will say it, I only train champions. When I first, Jake and I first started really talking business stuff, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, like this, about the current businesses that we're running. I remember him saying that to me. I only train champions. And it hit me. I was like, what's he talking about? But I get what he's talking about. The desire and will to become a champion. That's really who a true champion is. So once we have this, though, we've got to put them through moral and ethical decision-making games, operational testing, letting them fail, teaching them through failure, seeing their character in failure. Are they fighting, biting, and scratching to win, to make it right? And in a no-win scenario, how do they perform? We have to know what their breaking point is and what the no-win scenario looks like. And then you have to give them, you got to break them down, coach them back up, get them to where you want them to be, okay? Break them down to their raw, atomize them, their raw elements, then rebuild them stronger than ever, okay, as a leader. And it takes a lot of hard coaching, a lot of raw, unfiltered feedback. And you don't want to break them along the way either. You got to build them back up as you're doing this. So it takes great leadership and great teachers to do that along the way. And I think through that, when they're able to face the problems over and over again, they learn how to take on the problems that before were defeating them. They start to realize what resilience looks like. I come back, I do it again, and I learn. Part of this, and the last part of my whole thing is this. We need to teach them the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, okay? There's a great professor, I think out of Stanford, Carol Dweck, who wrote this book called The Growth Mindset. The growth mindset says that, in a nutshell, I may not be able to do it yet. Okay, yet is the key, right? That you may not have the capability right now, but you can grow into it. And this also has the assumption that our abilities, our skills, our knowledge is not limited. Like, the old saying, you either got it or you don't, kid. That doesn't apply here, right? In leadership, leaders can be developed, and a lot of things that can be developed. Now, there's some genetic gifts people are given that you either got or you don't, which is true, okay? I'm never going to be a pro basketball player. It's just not going to happen, right? That is truly you got it or you don't. But in this case, we're talking about leadership. We need to have the growth mindset, realizing that your skills, your abilities, your knowledge, your resilience is not fixed, and you have the ability to grow it, okay? And that's my answer for that.
Yeah. What mistakes have you seen? That was the other part of that question. What mistake? Like, what was the number one mistake you see new leaders make?
Ooh. I would say not inspecting what they expect and not having the moral courage to question. For a new leader, not having the moral courage and knowing it's okay to inspect what you're expecting, and not having the moral courage to step up and say, I think this is wrong. Show me why this isn't wrong. So, and I think that takes some good coaching too. You got to set your people up for success. So if you have a junior leader under you, anybody out there has a team, you got to set them up and say, look, it's your job. They understand that this is your job. And the next close mistake to that, not a derivative, a causal or a contributing factor to you having a lack of moral courage, a contributing factor is this. you trying to have a friend and not be a leader. Okay, people want leadership. We used to say this all the time. Marines want leadership. They don't want buddyship. Any of my Marines out there, you know you've heard that 1,000 times. Marines want leadership. They don't want buddyship. I knew as my job as a commander, and as a lieutenant, it's harder. You got to get used to these things. But later on, you know, I would always just say, don't make it a problem for me. You know what my job is? If I cannot unsee what I've seen, I cannot unhear what I've heard. Okay, we're setting that right now. Understand, I'm the fucking hatchet man. The hatchet's going to fall. And that's not one of my paddles. I'm the fucking hatchet man. That's it. So you're fucking around, you're going to find out. Yeah. And you have to understand that I'm gonna follow a process, but this is my job. You know, people want guardrails, they want structure, they want strong leadership. So you can also save these badasses in our particular context in special operations or Marine infantry, you know, things I'm familiar with. They want someone who's strong enough to make sure they lead them down a good path too. Not some slime ball that has no backbone. That goes along to get along because I want to be friends. I want to be liked. You know, you got to know you're the fucking law, man. The buck stops here. That's it.
We had before I turn it over to you, Jake, we had, so officers in our career field are called CROs, combat rescue officers. And there was a common derogatory statement that you would say about him is he a good officer? And you'd say, well, he's a little bit too much bro and not enough crow, because you need that leader that can do those hard things. Jake, you train champions all the time. You got nothing but winners under you. You know how to select leaders. What do you got?
All right, man. So I'm going to talk about my young lady, 21 years old, that ran an $8 million company for me. So first thing I'm going to say, it took roughly 15 to 2,000 hours to make her, but she had to have the capacity to be made. Okay. So you can't make a non-leader into a leader. I don't care. All that. You can get better at leadership, sure. You can make a 4 into a 5, but he ain't never going to be a 6, okay? So to Ben's point, like, I deal with champions, bro. I deal with 10s. I find them. They don't look like 10s. I fucking polish them. I cut them, and I grow them, okay? I'm going to come a little bit softer than Ben did. Ben's leading fucking infantrymen. Motherfuckers eating crayons and shit. And they need a certain type of leadership, right? But with a 21-year-old female that came out of a little bit of an edgy situation, she didn't need that, right? Now, I'm automatically going to give it to you. You're going to get, like, we're fucking winning, okay? We're not worried about the odds. We're not worried about the environment. We're going to find a way to win. That's one of my deals. Like, we're always going to find a way to win. And so one of my biggest axioms is, like, if my idea isn't 50% better than your idea, we're always going to execute on your idea, okay? And so always. And then my other axiom is, I'm always going to let you execute on your idea unless your idea has a 50% chance of being fatal. Okay? So, like, if it's a situation where this is going to cause catastrophic harm, then I'm going to insert myself. But I believe you have to let young leaders lead. You have to let them fail, and it has to be in a controlled environment. So I'm not gonna miss 60 routes tomorrow, but I may let her think we're going to miss one route. And as the leader, I may have a plan for it. Well, I will have a plan for it. And then I'll let her adjust to figure out how she's going to run that one extra route tomorrow. But I wouldn't let her get to a situation where she's 30 routes short tomorrow. Now, in that same context, there was a situation where we were 10 routes short. And this was probably a year into her running the whole company. And she was just like, you fix this problem. I said, why can't you fix this problem? She said, it's 11:30 at night. And this is going to take big calls, and I don't want to listen to them whine to me at 11:30 at night. I said, fair enough. So I called my 10 hitters. They all came to work next morning at 8:30, and we ran 10 extra routes. And so I think there's times, but she also had to have the will to tell me I need some help. So leadership, I think there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but like Ben said, a lot of it's the environment you're in. Like, she was a great business leader. If I put her on the front lines in the infantry unit, I wouldn't have had a good leader, right? She doesn't have the internal makeup to deal with bullets coming her way, okay? So, but in a business environment, my next business that I'm going to buy here shortly, like, she just had twins. She's fucking killing it. You know, it'll be probably timed up about right. I'm going to pull her off the bench and be like, here we go. You know? So, and if not, I'm going to go down to the local college and I'll find 3 rock stars and I'll grow them, and the winner is going to run the company. So, You know, and that's kind of my stick. I don't, you know, if cats can fly fighter jets at 18 in World War II, I can go down to college and get a 21-year-old to run a $10 million company. I can do that.
Yep, exactly. So I'm going to hit you guys with a great book. It's called Traction: How Any Startup Can Achieve Explosive Customer Growth. It was written by Gabriel Weinberg and Justin Mayers. This book is fantastic. It talks about specifically entrepreneurial stuff, but there's a great section on leadership and how you pick out who you think can be leaders in any organization that you're starting. And it applies across all things. It's not just a business book, but he boiled it down to 3 things. Get it once it has the capability to do it. That's what I look for in a leader. Do you get it? Do you understand the mission? Do you understand where we're going? Do you know what it is that we're trying to do? Do you want it? Are you motivated to do it? Does it excite you? Are you one of those people that's just killing time between 9 to 5 to come into work, just do your job and go home? Or do you actually want to make the organization better? And then do you have the capability to do it? Do you have it in your head that you can actually do this, and do you have the capability to do it? So go get that book. It's called Traction. Listen to it on audiobook. It's great. And then the biggest mistake that I see for young leaders that stands in their way is you have to make decisions. Just like Ben said, just like Jake said, you have to make decisions. Whether you're going to have to be the axe man, you're going to have to be the bearer of bad news, but you have to make that decision. Having another meeting and waiting another week for a decision that's already made, you know what the next step is. Waiting to do that is not helping anybody. Your speed of decision making has to be right. And just like Jake said, you're going to fail. You are going to fail I failed today at my job. Like, I fail every single day, but I won't fail in the same way again. I'll get better and I'll keep going, but you have to make that decision, own it. It's either going to be a good decision or a bad decision. You have to include your risk in there. Is this a thing? Is this 50% better decision going to kill us? Does it have risk that I really need to roll in to my calculus in making this decision? But once you're never going to have 100%, folks. You just got to make the best decision you have with everything at your disposal at the time, and you have to make the decision and go forward.
Aaron, let me add something to that, because that's monumental what you're saying. So I have an awesome saying that I learned on my first ship. The hardest decisions are the easiest to make. And once you know it's a hard decision, you make the best decision you can. You pick the best option that you can right there, and you live with that. And if it turns out to be the absolute worst decision you could have made, then you got to live with it, right? Like those hard decisions, like on a ship or like in business. Am I going to fire this guy that's the number 3 person at my company because he did something very nefarious? I put it right to my girl, right to her. She said, I want to fire him, Jake. I said, okay, then you fire him.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want to fire him. You're going to fire him. I said, nope. You want to fire him? You're firing him.
You know, and
right. And I knew it was a hard decision because he had came from a huge organization, he had been in charge of like 5,000 people in his last organization. He was a huge leadership asset for us, but he did something very nefarious. And my girl knew, like, we don't play nefarious games in this company. Yeah. And so, you know, hard decision. She called me back the next day and she's like, I fired him. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I'll say, like,
it ain't that hard, baby.
One thing is that, I mean, I think it's easy for us to understand as military people, and a lot of people in the chat as well too, but never underestimate the power of training and of, you know, thinking ahead. So you got to train. One of the things I teach teams that I work with, companies I work with, you know, founders, owners, executives, all this stuff like that. Anybody's trying to be a leader of anything, is the value in decision-making games and moral and ethical dilemma games. Okay. So exactly what Jake just said right there. You could take that example or a more nefarious one, a harder one. And we covered this last night in my live, but the lesser of 2 evils. How do you choose between, and I used a South Park clip, if any of you guys remember that, to talk about, it was the clip between a douche and a turd sandwich. How do you choose between those two? But a lot of times we have to choose between the lesser of 2 evils. But unless you're prepared to do that, you know, do you know to create a third option, that you have the ability to do that as a leader? Do you have the ability to, you know, make a decision based upon what the greatest good is? What's your rubric for this? Unless you prepare ahead of time, your leadership, yourself, you'll be caught really flat-footed, and it'll be very hard. And you may not do what Aaron said. You won't make a decision. You won't get it done. And I had this once in a client. Big company. I'm advising, strategic advisor, the founder and CEO, 5,000 person company, no kidding, gazillion-dollar international, multinational company. Okay. Toxic general manager. Would not fire the general manager. I said the person has to go. So many violations, fraternization, theft, all these things. I said everyone knows, and this culture is getting destroyed because of it. Finally, they fired them. Everything improved. Everything got better. Workplace culture, everything's better. But everyone knows if you're not making the hard decision, if for some reason you're holding on, give it another chance. It's, the weakness. It is a weakness because you're not putting the mission first, and that's just what I want to say. You got to train for it. Think ahead of it. You can do ethical decision-making games. You can get with a small group of people and your team, your big players, and say, okay, here's the situation. If this happens, what are we going to do? Well, It depends. Okay, here are your variables. I'm defining the variables. No more it depends. Right now, what do we do? And that's it.
Yep.
And I used to do that with my team leaders all the time. I used to do that all the time with them.
The fun little wrinkle that people always miss is when you're choosing between the lesser of two evils. As a leader, you might have to choose an evil. You might only have to. It's two bad decisions, but which one is the best for the most amount of people? That's the one you got to make. That's the one you got to do.
Amen.
So we're going to get to this last topic here. I just love it. Everybody in the world is soft, and because we're old, we know it. So this is just a great story. So magically, dozens of Israeli soldiers came down sick to their stomachs at an IDF base as reports detail filthy conditions. So dozens of cadets and staff at the Bizla Air Defense Base in Negev have reported symptoms of vomiting and diarrhea in recent days, according to Hebrew media reports. Around 40 trainees and 10 staff members required medical treatment. The IDF began an investigation. The soldiers and parents have described alarming sanitary conditions at the base, including spoiled food, cockroach infestations, a dead pigeon near the kitchen. Some troops reportedly fainted due to the extreme heat and the lack of air conditioning. That's not the funniest part of this story. The funniest part of this story is that they all got to go home, and it was thanks to their parents. These folks, no kidding, their parents literally called the base commander, forced them to have a meeting. They showed up and they said, "You're not going to do this to my baby." They said, "Oy vey, get him out of here." And that is exactly what freaking happened.
So I'm going to tackle this. This is my people over there.
Yeah, because you're Jewish.
You guys got to understand, everybody has to serve in the IDF. So it's not like these 18, 19-year-olds are somebody's kids, right? Like they got to do a year, but sometimes it stretches out. Now it's kind of messy. So like everybody's kids in the IDF. So like the moms kind of got some power over there, right? Like they go see the rabbi. Hey man, this ain't kosher. And you got change. So, it's just one of the side benefits of having everybody serve in your military because you're a small country and everybody wants to kill you. So I don't think it's a problem. They got to go home, like, whatever.
Ben, you were the commander of a pretty high-speed unit. You ever have a parent call you complaining about conditions?
Never. One time, Jake and I talked about this for not passing a course. It wasn't passing a course. No, it was not getting the orders they wanted. And anyway, we talked about that's another episode, but never. And here's the thing. I don't know the full context of what the hell's going on. I mean, I know what's going on over there. There's a lot of stuff going on, right? But when that happens, that means that there's going to be some political leader who's going to come down and stomp on somebody because this isn't Sparta. This is Sparta. This is not Sparta. Like, you can have your mom come and save you, right? So this is not what they're looking for. I just think that, it's funny because it goes against military good order and discipline and all that crap like that. It's, I think it's going to, in the end, is that good for them as a fighting force? Does it look weak? 1,000%. Is that an IO victory for the other team? They're laughing at them. Are you kidding me with the other team's ideology? They're like, what? This is nuts right now. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to go into all of it, but this is that's two different things, two different cultures right there. So it's nuts. And I think that, I don't think it's a good move. I think it's not good, but someone's going to get crushed because we're probably not seeing the full context of this. That means some crap has happened before to where the moms feel like they have the power. They probably got some politician back in them, and they're going to come in and, they're going to be shaken up a little bit. But I still think it's nuts. It's nuts.
Ben, let me remind you, they're already laughing because all of the women are serving also.
100%.
And in the Muslim culture, if your women are fighting the war, you're a scoundrel, right? You're a clown.
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%. They're laughing. They're just like, like we don't have these problems. What? You
Right.
know?
Imagine.
So
Well, folks, that's it. We hit a lot of stuff, hit a lot of ground today. I hope you guys got some value out of it. Ben, hit us up. When's the next show? Where can people find you? What is it that you got on your plate?
awesome. Sunday is Leadership Sundays, 4 p.m. on my YouTube channel. And all else that I do will be revealed in the live on Sunday at 4 p.m. I'm live Sundays at 4 p.m. and Thursdays at 8 p.m. You can also find me, link in my bio on Instagram, all my coaching membership, coaching community. It's on fire. It's awesome. It's really growing, and I love it. You're going to love it. But please show up on the Sunday live at 4 p.m. and check out my YouTube channel. And get on there and subscribe. I got to catch up to these guys. They're going to vote me off the island. You're not going to see Ben Pappas anymore. They're like, Ben, we're giving you 1 year to get up to 10K. We got to do it. You guys got to help me out. They were giving me the mean mugging. They're like, you're not in their club anymore.
100%. We had that big talk about veterans and supporting each other, and that's exactly what we don't do in the war room. We make sure that if you're not succeeding, we kick you the F out. Congratulations. Jake, where can people find you? What you got going on, brother?
Easy day, brother. jakeswig.com. We're killing it, man. We're waiting on this big mothership of cash to show up. We working on some magic, bro. I'm telling you right now. I got some new people helping out. I got a pilot. If you guys are trying to fly, reach out, get in my Discord. We've got a pilot in there that will fly anywhere west of the Mississippi as long as you fly 20 hours at $175 an hour. Maybe the best pilot training you can ask for, period. I got 2 dudes in it right now. They're like, oh my God, this guy, they're flying 4 hours a day right now out of California. Great thing. So jump in Discord, man. We're making just champions for life, like Ben said. We're mentoring. We got a bunch of kids in the Service Academy. Service Academy admittance letters are going to be coming out here probably end of September, early October. We're killing it, man. Killing it.
Hell yeah. You can find me over at One's Ready. Go check out that podcast. We just passed episode 500. I think we're about to drop episode 502. Tons of guests, lots of stuff to talk about. If you guys want to know exactly what's going on in Air Force Special Operations and how to be successful in something that basically fails out 91% of the people that try it, go over there and follow us. You can follow me on Instagram at Aaron_loves_America. You can always follow us over on the War Room. I'd love to see that channel blow up. So go check us out on Instagram. That's at the War Room. From us to you, we appreciate y'all. We couldn't be here without you. Thanks for everything that you do. Make sure to go follow Nate Valhalla VFT. He goes live here in 20 minutes. So go check out his live at 5. Don't miss Ben this Sunday. Make sure to hit up Jake for everything that he's doing. From Jay, who couldn't be here because he's just out there grinding, just scooping up businesses like the madman that he is, just crushing it. We want to say thanks. We appreciate you. We will see you next week here, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern time. That's the first time I've said it right all day.
And don't forget to use the force.
Use the force.
Take us away, Jake, with use the force.
And Jake is going to force close the live.
Hey,